Greetings, fellow history enthusiasts. I'm your host, Taiji Liu, and this is Artifacts Unearthed, the podcast that digs deep into the heart of South Asian history through the art that has painted its story across the ages. Over the past several months, I have been on an academic journey, diving into the complex tapestry of South Asian art history. But this journey isn't just mere aesthetics. It's an exploration of power struggles, the forging and reforging of cultural and national identities, and the incredible resilience of people through the ages. This isn't just silence. It speaks volume of conquest, a spiritual one that is full of innovation and revolution. In today's episode, I'll be revealing the fascinating insights that I've gleaned from my studies. We'll travel through time, from ancient South Asian art to post-colonial strokes of the British Empire. We'll explore how art has been the canvas for political agendas, a battleground for cultural dominance, and a mirror reflecting the societal changes over centuries. So whether you're a history buff or an art aficionado or someone curious about the intersection of the past with the present, this show has something for you. So get ready to have your perspective broadened and your understanding of South Asian history art deepened. So join me as we embark on this enlightening journey together. This is Artifacts Unearthed. The first thing I really want to talk about our journey today is the mesmerizing Ajanta Caves, hidden in the hills of Maharashtra, India, and I think it dates back between the 2nd century BCE and 480 CE. These caves are like the time machine, transporting us to the heart of ancient India spirituality and artistry. And the walls there are covered with frescoes that brings to life the Jataka tales, the stories of Buddha's many lives. And as we explored in class icons, narratives, monuments, I was captivated by the depth of these murals. And then they're not just arts, they're teachings in colors and forms, and a visual language that is used to share the story of Buddha with everyone. I mean, literal or not, this inclusive approach of Buddhism is profoundly evident here, using art to bridge the gaps of language and literacy. The colors in these murals, I must say, is so vibrant after centuries, are made from earth and minerals. This technology they used were way ahead of their time. And the art shows a deep understanding of storytelling. These paintings are much more than just religious scenes. They're almost like snapshots of life back then, giving us a peek into the day-to-day life of ancient Indian society. In changing views of India art history, my perspective have broadened as well. I have began to see the caves not as only as a sacred space, but a cultural hub buzzing with the life and stories of society, constantly evolving. And in each painting, from the meditative bodhisattvas to the lively market of scenes, tells us about the value and beliefs of that era. The caves themselves, with the grand chaitas and peaceful viharas, reflecting the community-centric lifestyle of the monks. I think they're the architectural embodiments of Buddha's path to enlightenment. Studying the Ajanta Caves was an eye-opener for me. It showed me how art can be a powerful narrator of history. These caves are living testaments of the brilliance and ancient artists and enduring spirits of Buddhism in South Asia. They remind us that art is much more than just beauty. It's a conversation between the ages, a narrative about how people lived, believed, and expressed the understanding of the world. After marveling at the ancient stories about Ajanta Caves, I want to step into the open air of Jaipur, where Jantamantar really reaches for the sky. It's like walking into a giant playground of sundials and strange shapes, but there's much more to it than it meets the eye. This place isn't just about telling time or tracking stars. In class, I remember we talked about how in the olden times people saw heavens as a map for life on Earth. They believed that the stars and planets could guide them, almost like a divine GPS. The Ajanta Mantar, built by Maharaja Jaisin, who was a bit of a genius with stars, the place is a collection of these massive stargazing tools, and they were huge. We're talking about like instruments you can walk on and around. The biggest sundial. They can tell you the time down to the minute, and just by casting a shadow. It's pretty clever for the 1700s, I must say. However, what struck me in our seeing the divine image in India discussion was how this place really links to the sky and the sacred. The king wasn't just trying to make sense of the star, he was trying to connect with something bigger, something divine. And that's a big deal in India. The idea that everything in life is connected, from the tiniest ant to the farthest star. We also read about in class about how temples and places like Jantamanta are thoughtfully designed to reflect this cosmic order. They're not just buildings, they're like 3D books telling stories about life, the universe, and our place in it. So the Jantar Mantar isn't just an ancient observatory. It's a place where science, art, spirituality all come together. It shows us how people back then looked up to the sky to understand the world around them. In some way, how they try to find their place in the big, wide universe. So just imagine standing there as the sun casts a shadow on the giant dial, feeling like you're a part of this grand cosmic clockwork. It's like a reminder of how the old kings of India wanted to align their lives with the rhythm of the cosmos. Now let's travel to a place that's like a secret underground castle made of stairs and stories. It's called the Rani Ki Vav, and it's in Gujarat. Picture this, a massive well, but instead of being in a hole in the ground, it's an elaborate staircase filled with carvings, like an art gallery you can walk down into. In class, when we talk about ways of looking, it really stood out to me. It's not just a well for water, it's a storybook in a stone. Built by Queen Rani a long time ago in memory of her husband, it shows us how people back then celebrated life, nature, and spirituality. What's really cool is that the Queen commissioned it herself. It's like a tribute from a powerful woman in an era where we don't hear much about women leaders. As you walk down these steps of Rani Ki Vav, it's like going back in time. Every time has carvings of God, and goddesses. It seems like scenes is from daily life. There's so much more to see, including musicians, dancers, and even mystical creatures. It's the queen who wanted to tell us a story, and not words, but with carvings. And each carving has a meaning, a piece of the puzzle that was life back then. What really got me thinking in our lectures was how this place is more than just a piece of architecture. It's a symbol of how water was so sacred and almost magical to people in the past. They didn't build a well, they built a temple to honor water. And in a way, it tells us about how we respect nature and how they saw the divine in everyday things like water. Rani Ki Vav isn't just about past. It talks to us now. It tells us how about, power of storytelling, the respect for nature, and the role of woman, being played in this shaping history. When you look at it that way, it's not just an oh well, it's a bridge to the lives and beliefs of people from 1,000 years ago. Now, leaving the depths of Rani Ki Vav, our next stop is the Sanchi Stupa, standing tall and serene in the heart of India, the Ryazan district. Being constructed around the 3rd century BCE, this isn't just any monument. It's a time capsule of ancient Buddhist India. Now, imagine a huge dome like a giant stone bubble, surrounded by intricate gateways, each teeming with carvings. It's like an ancient comic book in stone, telling stories that are over 2,000 years old. During our ancient narratives that we talked about in class, I was fascinated about how much Sanchi Stupa was much more than just a burial mound for relics. It's visual diary of the Buddha's life and times. The carvings on the stupa are breathtaking. They show the Buddha not as a figure, but through symbols like footprints and thrones. It's like the artists were trying to use a special code to tell his story. But what's really cool about Sanchi is that it didn't just tell us about what Buddha is. The carvings also showed what everyday life was like back then. You know, people were cooking, animals was roaming, and even scenes of festivals were displayed. It's like those artists wanted to say, hey, you know what? This was our world, and they did it with such detail and care. In class, we talked about how each scenes of stupa gave us clues like detectives. We can piece together how people dressed, what they did, and what they believed in. It's incredible how much you can see and learn about a long gone world from just looking at the carvings. Visiting the Sanchi Stupa is like walking into a story as if you circled around it. You will literally walk through this history, seeing this legacy of Buddhism unfold in your eyes. It really makes you feel like you realize, oh, the art isn't just showing off or decoration. It's a powerful way of keeping history alive. And that's what Sanchi has been doing for centuries. Whispering old tales, telling us, waiting for us to listen and learn. Let's step away and take a small break from some historical narratives. Immerse ourselves in a living tradition that continues to shape the spiritual landscape of South Asia. This particular tradition is crucial to building my understanding of South Asian practices and also one that I found particularly interesting: the practice of Darshan, as exemplified by the Meenakshi Amman Temple in Madurai. Now, in the heart of Madurai stands a temple not of just stones and idols, but of belief and experiences. The Meenakshi Amman Temple, with its towering gopuram adorned with thousands of color statues, it's a celebration of the divine. As we discussed in seeing the divine images in India in class, Darshan at this temple is more than just seeing. It's about being seen by the deity, a mutual exchange of gazes that bridges the human and the divine. I was fascinated to learn that Darshan is a central element in Hindu worship, a moment of connection where devotees seek not to just see the deity, but to be a part of this reciprocal act of seeing and being seen. The Meenakshi temple, dedicated to the goddess of Meenakshi, epitomizes this interaction. The elaborately carved figures, the intricate corridors, and the sanctified inner sanctum all leads to this singular, profound moment of darshan. In the temple, every detail is deliberate. Every statue tells a story, and every ritual has a meaning. The act of walking through the temple, from the grand gates to the innermost sanctum, it's a journey in itself, a preparation of the sacred moment of darshan. It's a multi-sensory experience where the scent of incense, the sound of bells and chants, the sight of deity accumulate a powerful moment of spiritual awakening. This temple taught me how darshan is an embodiment of the philosophy that the divine is not distant or detached, but accessible and almost intimately connected to the everyday life of people. It's a living tradition, one that continues to attract millions of devotees, each seeking a moment of divine connection. The Meenakshi Amman Temple stands out not just as a monument of religious significance, but as a beacon of the enduring practice of darshan. It's a reminder of the continuous dialogue between the mortal and the immortal, a testament to the spiritual tapestry of South Asia that weaves throughout everyday life. Now let's transition our journey back to where history layers are even more pronounced. Revealing the narratives of power and change, we continue our explorations and find ourselves at the Lahore Fort in Pakistan. Built in 1566, a grand fortress that tells a story of empires, kings, and colonial power. This fort, with its majestic architecture, has seen centuries of history, including the impactful era of British colonialism. During our museumizing South Asia discussions, we examine how colonial power often imposed their architecture style as a show of dominance. In the Lahore Fort, you can see this blend, the imperial Mughal artistry combined with the functional, assertive structures of the British era. It's like each brick and archway has a story to tell, stories of conquest and change. However, what fascinated me the most was how these architecture additions by the British weren't just about utility. They were symbolic, a way to assert their power over the region. Yes, amidst the colonial narrative, the fort's original splendor still shines through. It's a resilient symbol of the local culture and history, enduring through times of turmoil and change. So, as we walk through the courtyards of the Lahore Fort, we're not just seeing historical sites, we're actually witnessing a physical chronicle of South Asia's diverse and complex history. It's a place where the past converges with the present, reminding us of the ever-changing dynamics of power and culture. Leaving the historical layers of the Lahore Fort, we now venture into a symbol of the British Empire's presence in India, the Victoria Memorial in Kolkata. Think of it as a marble giant standing tall and proud, a testament to the era of the British Raj. In our visual regimes of the colonialism segment, we delved into what this grand structure really represents. It's not a tribute to British Queen, it's much more. This memorial tells a story of the imperial ambition and control. It's like the British were trying to use this architecture to make a statement, to etch their presence into the very fabric of India. As I studied this monument, I realized how it's a blend of both admiration and imposition. The design is majestic with its dome and gardens, drawing inspiration from both Mughal and European styles. But it's also a visual reminder of British dominance, a way of saying, we are here and we are in control. What struck me in class, though, was the fact that underlying a symbolism of the Victoria Memorial. It's not just about remembering a queen. I think it's about memorializing an empire. The British were keen on leaving behind a legacy, a permanent mark, to say that they were once here, once the ruler of this vast land. Yet, as we discuss the colonial impact of South Asia, it's important to remember that this structure, like the Victoria Memorial, also tells a story of resilience. I think this is very important because they stand today not just as a reminder of colonial rule, but as a symbol of nation's journey to independence and its reclaiming of history and space. So when you look at the Victoria Memorial, try to see beyond its beauty. See it as a narrative in marble, a story of power, resistance, and the complex tapestry of India's past. From the imposing structure of the colonial power, we now turn into something more somber and poignant. The photographs of Bengal Famine. As we discussed in Photography's India History, these aren't just pictures, they're powerful testimonies of one of the darkest chapters in India history under the British rule. During the mid-1940s, Bengal experienced a devastating famine. These photographs from the period are heart-wrenching. They also show a harsh reality faced by millions. The hunger, the despair, the loss. It's definitely a side of colonialism that often gets overshadowed by the grand narratives of empire and power. In class, we explored how these photographs served as a form of this visual protest. They captured the consequences of colonial policies that prioritized war efforts over human lives. What struck me the most was how these images are not just about documenting suffering. They are an outcry, a plea for the world to witness and remember. The black and white images, with their haunting simplicity, brings the plight of famine victims to their forefront. They make us confront the uncomfortable truth of history, the story that are not often left out of the official records. These photographs challenge us to look beyond the surface, to understand the complex layer of history, and to emphasize those who endured such hardships. As we reflect on these images, it's crucial to remember their role in shaping historic narratives. They remind us of the power of photography, not just as a tool for documentation, but as a mean of advocacy and change. The Bengal Famine photographs are solemn a reminder of the past, urging us to not forget the lessons learned and resilience of those who survived and suffered. Transitioning from the devastating reality of Bengal Famine photographs, we now delve into a vibrant world of Amrita Shergill's painting. In the aftermath of the independence, Shergill's art emerges as canvas narrating India's search for a new identity. In the readings, it revealed to me how her work is not just about beautiful imagery. It's a conversation about what it means to be Indian in post-colonial world. Amrita Shergill, often is recalled as India's Frida Kahlo, had a unique style that blended the traditional Indian art form with Western techniques. Her paintings are a fascinating mix of color, emotions, and themes that reflect on the turmoil and excitement of nations rediscovering itself. We also explore how her paintings were almost depictions of India's life. They were critiques and explorations of the social reality of her time. Shergill's painted rural India, woman, and everyday scenes, but there is a depth of her work that goes beyond the canvas. She was questioning and establishing the reality norm, challenging the stereotype, and painting the soul of this country's in transition. One of the most striking things about Shergill's work is her use of color and form. She had a way of capturing the essence of her subject, blending realism with a sense of dreaminess. Her work makes you stop and think, to look beyond the obvious and see the layers of meaning beneath. In a way, Shergill's paintings are a bridge between the old and the new. They carry the heritage of Indian art with rich colors and intricate details into a new era where these traditions are reinterpreted and reimagined. Her art is the testament to power and creativity in shaping cultural and identity, and a reminder of the ongoing journey of defining and redefining what it means to be Indian. For our final stop, let's visit the gleaming Golden Temple in Amritsar, a beacon of Sikh faith and unity. The Golden Temple isn't just a place of spiritual reverence, it's also a heartwarming example of community and hospitality, deeply embedded in the Sikh tradition of langar. As we explore the visual culture of food in South Asian cookbooks, the langar at the Golden Temple is a powerful expression of equality and communal care. This isn't just any communal kitchen, it is actually one of the largest free kitchens in the world, serving thousands of meals every day to people from all walks of life, regardless of their background or beliefs. I was fascinated to learn about the philosophy behind langar. It's a practice initiated by Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, to ensure that no one goes hungry and everyone sits and eats together, breaking down social barriers. This act of preparing and sharing food is a form of seva, or selfless service, considered sacred in Sikhism. At the Golden Temple, volunteers work tirelessly, cooking vast quantities of food, simple vegetarian dishes that nourish both body and soul. The kitchen operates around the clock, resonating with the clatter of utensils and the warmth of the community spirit. It's incredible how a simple act of sharing a meal can become a profound experience, reinforcing the values of humility, equality, and togetherness. This segment isn't just about a place or a ritual, it's about enduring power of food to bring people together, to serve and to share, to offer comfort and a sense of belonging. The Golden Temple Langar is a testament to the compassionate core of Sikhism, a reminder that the world of a division, there's still a place where everyone is welcome to sit at the same table. As we conclude our journey, the Golden Temple leaves us with a taste of rich tapestry of South Asian culture, where art, faith, and food intertwine to create something truly extraordinary. Through these 10 artifacts, we have traveled from ancient Buddhist teachings to the dark days of colonial rule, and they emerged into a vibrant post-colonial era where art reflects a renewed search for identity. This course has been a window into the soul of South Asia, and I hope this podcast has offered you a glimpse into this rich heritage. I'm Taiji, and you've been listening to Artifacts Unearthed.